Today I'm going to talk about North Dallas 40 and The Smashing Machine, which are films from different eras, both sports films, both showing people on the lower edges of sports and how that affects them. So it's not really a we are winners type of thing. It's not Rocky. It's nobody's coming from the bottom to achieve some sort of grace in these films. This is much more of a, life's terrible. you know, you have to struggle to survive, and even then, you're probably not going to do that great. So, North Dallas 40. If you like the Slaughtered Ronan's channel, you all know he has banged on this film for a while. So I've been kind of peer pressured into watching this film, if not bullied or stalked. Use whatever word you want to use for this. But yeah, it's I definitely feel pressured into watching this one. He even gave me his old DVD of it to try and pressure me into it, even though I've already had it on iTunes. But I got to see it in pristine 4K, which is nice. And I got to project it, which was really nice to watch the projector. Which, even though the projector's not 4K, you project 4K through a good projector and it looks damn good. And The Smashing Machine is the recent film by Benny Safdie, and it's starring The Rock, or Dwayne Johnson as he likes to be called nowadays, and Emily Blunt. So I'll start with North Dallas 40, directed by Ted Kosheff, who did First Blood and a bunch of other films. This is one of the films he made that was critically received. He's a kind of up and down career, lots of good stuff, lots of stuff. Like, what the hell are you doing? One of those careers, that affected a lot of directors come out of, into commercial cinema with a kind of realistic bent in the 60s and 70s, who would have to take jobs. You feel they'd have to take jobs sometimes that they weren't that keen on, that were more commercial, just to get through their career. But this one felt like he was making a film he wanted to make, so this feels like the real deal for him. But it's also a film with a decent sized budget, and it has a kind of a rising star, Nick Nolte. This is before Nolte really became prominent. This is his kind of early kind of pretty boy days. Although he was never really that much of a pretty boy, but that's what he was sold as, in this and The Deep and things, and it wasn't really. Nolte's gruff. And this film knows he's gruff, so this one doesn't try and play him off as someone who women get to swoon over. I mean, Nolte really came into his own in the 80s onwards, where he aged into the parts he was born to play, essentially. In this one, he's played a American football player who's one of the forwards who is at the end of his career, but he won't accept it. He's picked up lots of injuries. He can barely walk. They're having to drug him up a lot to get him on the field. And he's no longer starting the game. He's usually coming on later on, which annoys him because he wants to play the games. And he's annoying the guy, the good coach, played by J.D. Spradlin, who is much more of a technical coach. Says, do these plays, do these plays, do these plays. And he thinks Nolte's just trying to cause trouble, because Nolte comes from an older fashioned way of doing things, and he's more of a individual compared to some of the others. I mean, they're all individuals in their private life. All these characters are all strange people, but Nolte kind of pushes it when he gets to on practice in the field. He's got a pal who's the quarterback, who's much more in command of the politics, much more understands politics a lot more, even though he comes across a good old boy. But he knows how far he can push, and Nolte doesn't. But he also knows Nolte's at the end of his career. Nolte can't take that. Nolte's just no, a few more years left. It's like he's no longer starting. He doesn't get the fact is everyone can see his body shot. His body is gone. and he's not preparing. He's preparing a little bit. He's bought a farm. He's trying to build up, and he doesn't realise he's done. And throughout the film, it's him slowly coming to realise that and getting to the realisation of it, and also starting to realise just how brutal the Football League can be. So it was based on a book that was actually even darker. It was based by a guy who was who played the same position that was noted in the film. Although some of the footballers said the book, they weren't so keen on the book because it was cynical about the management, but it was also, they said the guy who wrote it was an ex-footballer, but they said he was never as good as Note's character was. And yeah, maybe he wasn't, but he was observing what went on in these leagues and the politics involved and how certain players knew more than others and certain players understood where they were more than others. And Note, he was the guy who was used to win the big game, who was adrenalised to win the big game. That's what his function was. And he didn't realise that's no longer his function in life. Because he can still come on and do that in short bursts, but that's all he can do. And the film really is taking it from Note's point of view most of the time. But after you've seen the film and seen where it goes, you realise it's been putting other point of views in as well. It's just been subtle with it. It's not like saying, oh, look at this, look at that. No, it's just like, Note's not paying attention the way he should be paying attention. He's letting some people off with things that he shouldn't, and he's also rebelling when he shouldn't, and he's also being harder on certain people than he needs to be. So he's not quite as clear as he should be about what's function should be, or where he is in life. Like, he starts a romance with this woman he meets at a party, and it's on and off, and he's not appreciating the fact that she's telling him, like, you have to move on, you're done. And he almost falls out with her because of that, and he's like, and he realises at the end he has to go and make up with her because he was in the wrong, and but the thing is, the way it's played, you know that she knows she's been an idiot with this, but it's understandable, so she's not written as like a one-dimensional character. It's like, no, it's a character who understands that this guy's in denial. You need to give him a bit of space to get until he gets through to the other side. So a lot of the characters are like that. I mean, the quarterback is a good old boy. He has a pal Noties, but he also knows what's going on, and there's only so much you can say to Noty to tell him, like, this isn't going well for you. You need to get some realism involved in how you approach your life. And he can't really do that as a fellow football player, but he's trying to drop hints to him, like he's burning bridges, and he's not going to get the goodwill other players might have got at the time if they're in a similar position because of the way he pushes people. So it's a terrific film, and it's also about who owns these kind of teams, how they like to portray a family image, but they are pretty cutthroat when they need to be. And you've got the guy who's managing the team, the coach, played by Charles Durning, who's the guy who does the kind of the bollockings and is much more telling people what they need to know, and he's pretty brutal at times. Durning's obviously on the ball, this character. And it's just a sense of this is probably what the football leagues that time were like, this sense of not very sentimental. People had their place, you had to know your place, and you'd be in trouble if you didn't realise your place in the pecking order and thought you were better than you were. And it is just that it feels right because the mechanisms all feel right, everything feels natural, and it's shot in a way that the games themselves are not the point, it's the training scenes are the point, it's the interactions during the training scenes are the point. When they shoot the games, you can see that they're shooting it, the background's all black to hide the fact there's no crowds, because this film was blackballed by the Football Association because of how critical it was of the football teams. So no one would go near it. But yeah, it's a very good film. You should see it. It's not perfect, but it's very, very good. The Smashing Machine surprised me because I expected the worst from this film. Not because of Benny Safdie, who's director, because he's done really good stuff with his brother before, but because it's The Rock coming into a serious film after, let's face it, a couple of years of just doing trash. He's been doing like very mediocre films, and this is a film, when you do a kind of arty film, you're meant to do that after your big hit, not after you've had 3 or 4 films where people are sick of your stick. And it's like that thing is like it came out way at the wrong time. And so it bombed horribly. And it cost a lot of money. But when you watch the film, you see where the money went actually. It's like, well, you couldn't make this film any cheaper if you had to recreate all that stuff. But it's one of those ones that's like, they took a chance The Rock could sell it and The Rock couldn't sell it. And it's a sports movie about MMA, and women weren't interested, and so it was a limited audience, so it just came out and died. And there's probably a low budget film that could have done the basics the same way and you could have ignored the rest, but this one actually, because of The Rock, they did the money to go to Japan, to go and do different things, to try and make this as legit looking as possible, or to actually have the money to make it look as if they went to Japan to shoot stuff. It's a very good film, but it's also based on a documentary, which I've seen. I really like the documentary, and I've not watched the documentary for a while, but there was one aspect I was wondering if we were going to follow, which is basically the film starts off with Mark Kerr, who's the big new thing in the MMA world. This is before the big contracts, which the film points out, and also the North Dallas 40 also points out, was like, this is like these people are getting underpaid to destroy their bodies for entertainment. The people making the money are the owners. I mean, they're making good money, the athletes, but not making amazing money that will set them up the rest of their lives. Not compared to the actual guys who running the thing. So in this film-based documentary, is you see Kerr, all the potential in the downward spiral. Well, his friend, whose career had pretty much collapsed for Mark Coleman, his career starts to rise and rise and rise. So there's a kind of cross thing in the documentary. And I was wondering, would they do that in the film, or would they just focus on Mark Kerr? But actually they don't. They sell the film in the Mark Kerr story, but actually they do follow documentary, and it's like the idea of what are these guys? Some of them are friends, some of them aren't, but some of them are, and it's like you watch Kerr having to deal with the fact that his friends actually doing whatever expected him to do, and he's failing within his personal life, and he's fallen into drug abuse, he's fallen into dysfunctional relationships, all the cliches of a sports movie, but it's done well. Everything's understandable. You understand that you start with painkillers, and then you need more painkillers and more painkillers to just cause your body's been so beaten up. So yeah, you can inflict a lot of damage, but your body is very much beaten up from the training to the actual fights. Your body's a mess, and so you're gonna have to do painkillers, and then Kerr goes over the top of painkillers, so he has to pull back. And when he was in painkillers, him and his girlfriend Dawn, played by Emily Blunt, were dysfunctional, but they were working well enough. Once he gets off the painkillers and becomes much more focused, he starts to see her flaws, like she is clingy to him. She will come in when he needs peace and quiet and destroys his peace and quiet when he needs the peace and quiet to focus on his match. She does need drama in her life when he doesn't need drama in his life. And she does accuse him of being preachy when he's trying to avoid drugs because he's in recovery. Which is what happens when someone is still using and the other person's not. And it's just this sort of stuff you've seen before, but the way it's played is wonderfully done. Both sides are understandable. You understand where both are coming from. You understand that Kerr's weak when it comes to this woman. He thinks he can get rid of her But when she turns up again, he really can't do it. No matter how many times she shows signs of mental instability, he's still drawn back to her. He can't deny her. And the fact that she's always there, she always ruins his chances of focusing and getting where he needs to be, because he's got this other ticking time bomb in his head that he also has to pay attention to, which means he's never quite as clear. And he stays with her for long after the film finishes, and they tell you that, and his career just never really delivers what it should, just because of like personal demons and personal weaknesses. He's great on the when he's working with his team and he's training, he's great, but he gets the matches and Sidney's attention, that just derails him completely. Well, Coleman has a family and he can focus a lot easier. He knows what he's there for, he knows what he's there to do. So even though he might not be the best fighter to some people, he can focus on what he needs to do. And Kurt is a good fighter, and he has to adapt when he changed some of the rules in MMA that goes against some of the things he used to use to win fights easily. And he has to adapt, so he's no longer as dominant in the fights as well. But it's something he can adapt to if he has a clear mind, and he doesn't. So the film is about excellence versus your own personal demons, your own personal things. Things in your head that you can't get rid of. There's similarly noticed characters the same way in another film where he's technically he knows everything, but he can't get out of his own way and he can't see clearly what's going on in his life. Kerr's the same way. He can get inclinations of what's going on, but he can't pull back and just say, no, I have to take a clean break. And so this film works really well. But unlike North Dallas 40, which you can see they've got a decent budget, but they're fighting against limitations of Blackballed. This film has all the cooperation of all the sports. It has all the money thrown at the screen, and it didn't do well. One of the things I think went against it was the first trailer. The first trailer was terrible. Honestly, Dwayne Johnson is using a lot of prosthetics to make him look like Mark Kerr, and the thing about these prosthetics, when he's talking and when he's doing the character stuff, you forget the makeup and it's fine. But when he's still and he's not doing anything, which they did lots of shots of to show him thinking in the trailer, the makeup looks a little bit fake sometimes. But if you're in the context of the film, you get used to it. But if you're seen it on the trailer just thrown at you, and you know it's him, but he's at makeup, it just looks weird. The second trailer had more in context. If I'm talking, that helped a little bit. But it's a sports film, MMA film. People are not going to be much into that. It's a limited audience. But also, I think that the makeup in the first trailer really did a job on it, because I bet me from being interested to go. I eventually saw it, but it's like one of those things. It's like, I think it put a lot of people off. So I think the makeup was a kind of difficult. It's something he needed to do because he couldn't go in looking like The Rock in this, because The Rock's the persona of someone who's always in control. This one, he's not in control. It's a guy who can't control himself. So they needed to hide that, but I'm not sure it kind of worked for promoting the film. It worked within the film well enough. Mostly. Once or twice sometimes you saw some joints, but mostly it worked fine. But in the promotion, it didn't quite work. But that's something that's just for the release of the film as it comes out. Now the film's in the world and on digital and things, and it'll find its own audience. So it'll be fine. So it's one of those things. It's like most films, people just focus on how did they open or how did they survive in the first couple of weeks. And films have a life beyond that. Most of them have a life like that goes on for decades if they're any good. And this film's a good film, so they'll make their money back eventually. It'll be a while, but I'm sure they'll make their money back eventually. But not for a bit. But it's still a worthwhile film. I still prefer the documentary, but this is a lot better than I expected just from that advanced publicity. And it does go dark when it needs to go dark. It's just, I think the film would have done better if you had the Rock actually had a couple of good films before it rather than some real turkeys before it. I think that did not help. Really did not help. Like, people were already sick of him before this film came out, and they were just weren't having it. So, I hope you enjoyed this video about these two films. Go watch the films. That's me for now. Right, bye.